Hi, everyone. So we started off this conference with information at a very macro level. So it only makes sense to end it by getting down to the nitty-gritty. And who better to host this talk than Natasha Christina Akda? Natasha is a Lebanese American attorney based in New York who provides legal guidance to businesses and organizations in the arts, private enterprise, and nonprofit sector. She has expertise in providing legal counsel to entrepreneurs and businesses in all aspects of their corporate development in both domestic and international markets. She also sits on the board of Jobs for Lebanon and is a great friend of mine. Natasha, I think I can speak for all the attendees here when I say I'm really looking forward to your session on the logistical considerations for outsourcing to Lebanon. Please take it away.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. I'm really excited to be able to be here today for this wonderful event and with our incredible panelists. I'm going to just go ahead and jump right into it because I think we have a lot of ground to cover, and this is a very granular but also high-level conversation that I'd like to get into. So today, I have the pleasure of having with me three wonderful gentlemen. I'm going to just go in order of the list that I have here. I'm not entirely sure how they're laying out on everybody's screen, so just bear with me. So I'd like to start by introducing Fadi Bizri. He's the co-founder and CEO of SE Factory. Samer Khedi, he's the co-founder and president at Novelis. And then Hani Dao, he's the senior applications engineer at Multilane. So gentlemen, thank you so much for being here today and thank you for your time. I'm going to jump right into it. So I've had the opportunity to speak with each of you prior to today's event, and you shared some really incredible insights and stories and ideas with respect to how you go about engaging in business in Lebanon, and some of the logistical considerations and challenges that you faced in that process. I think we're all pretty aware of some of the challenges, specifically not the best infrastructure in the whole wide world, right? Issues with electricity, issues with internet, just sheer infrastructure inefficiencies that need to be navigated, whether they're in the banking system or elsewhere, that really pose obstacles to conducting business. And each of you have taken a different approach to how to navigate that landscape. And so I was hoping we could discuss that a little bit more in detail. Perhaps we could actually start with Samer. During our conversation, you had been telling me about some of the approaches that Novelis has taken, specifically relating to contingency planning, and you've really done an incredible job with that. Could you walk us through some of that?
Sure, Natasha. Thank you for first introducing us. Thank you for hosting us today for JFL as well. So yeah, we had to take a lot of contingency plans with what's going on, with what we've been through the last couple of years. We had to take like some drastic measures on one part, but also take some measures just in case something even more drastic happens. So we started by first having contingency plan when it comes to infrastructure, as you said. So having several internet accesses, for instance, having so many backups on that front. Electricity, like everyone in Lebanon, of course, we have generators, we have lots of these subscriptions to generators, all these, but also we had to build our own storage for fuel because at one point in Lebanon, we had some shortage on fuel. Other than that, we had also to think about, well, in order not to disrupt business, to have like probably teams all around the world just to have some contingency plans on that front as well. So have kind of teams to be trained in Tunisia, for instance, and Argentina and Mexico and Latin America, just to make sure that if something happens, we don't disrupt our business and the business of our clients. So we have to train people and have some kind of double and triple teams all over just in case something happens. And we had our own teams in Lebanon just having visas and ready, like passports ready, just in case they have to fly there and just make sure that the business is running smoothly. That's on infrastructure and on that front. But also we had to, on the financial side, so on banking system, make sure that we are incorporated and we have banking systems outside of Lebanon as well to make sure that our payroll is running for Lebanon, but also for our other employees all over the world. So just make sure that we can run payroll, pay our suppliers, et cetera, et cetera.
So how did you go about developing this? Was it something that was on a event by event basis or crisis by crisis basis, or did you really sit down and kind of take a look at the overall picture and say, okay, you know what, I'm going to put my worst case scenario hat on and I'm going to look at the whole picture and just pre-solve for everything that I can conceive of?
Well, some of the things we had to look into because it started before even the crisis in Lebanon. So we because of the way we are and the way we're structured, we had already like teams all over. We had teams and all over the world in a way. So, but what we did when we started seeing that things are getting worse in Lebanon, we opened banking systems and banks for us, like bank accounts for us, like outside of Lebanon. And in that respect, we were a bit lucky. So we did that before the crisis started. And after that, we thought, you know what, we were lucky this time, we won't be lucky every time. So we had to think about it. And you know what, sometimes maybe we took a bit further, but it's better, as we always say, like it's better to be, instead of being sorry, just let's go the extra mile, make sure that we have a contingency plan in place just in case something really bad happens. Luckily, nothing like no real drastic things happened, but we've been lucky so far. We don't know, like even till now, we don't know if maybe the internet at one point in Lebanon might disrupt it. So we need to have another plan. We don't know if something on the security side might happen in Lebanon. So also we have to be ready for that.
So you have the plans in place should you need to put them into effect, and that's incredibly comprehensive. You know, I think Fadi Bizri from SE Factory, when we were talking, you had mentioned that you had also taken a very similar kind of holistic approach to managing all of the different contingencies and issues that may or may not pop up when you're trying to conduct business, and specifically when you're trying to help facilitate potential candidates work for global employers. How have you kind of navigated that landscape in comparison to what Fadi has done, or Samer has done?
Yeah, no worries. Thank you very much, everyone, for the invitation for the great event. So, I mean, what we do at SE Factory, the whole idea is to help international companies build great teams in Lebanon, which of course is a win for the local talent and allows people to stay here and to live, as much as possible, a dignified life. What you're fighting against is not just the actual problems like infrastructure and so on, which are significant. It's also the perception from the outside world. So companies, the international media has a negative bias, has a selection bias towards negative news, right? So they only see the scary stuff. So how can you convince and show the companies outside that it's a good idea to build teams in Lebanon? And building a team, somebody earlier mentioned outstaffing versus outsourcing. We help them build their own teams in Lebanon, but they manage them directly. So it's a big decision on their side. So there's multiple dimensions to that. On the human side, you have to train people to become, in our case, we train coders, full stack developers, to become ready for the international market. So the Lebanese talent that comes out of universities, computer science, and so on, you can think of them as they're here. But the international job market, the benchmark is here. And we basically identify the missing gap and we train in a holistic way. So we train on how to become a professional developer, a software developer, as opposed to a theoretical one. We train on soft skills, which is incredibly valued by companies, how to interview for a job. We do mock interviews, how to work as part of a team, how to communicate. We assess them on English. We train them now because it's a remote world on Zoom etiquette. We call it Zoom etiquette and so on. And when the time comes and they graduate from our boot camps, we facilitate the entire interview process. So we help the companies, they have a website, they can filter for the profiles and so on. So you can think of it as we are rolling out the red carpet for these companies to be able to, every 4 months, find the talent they need. And that is fully trained in a holistic way. So that's very important. So you present to them candidates that are globally competitive, that are good at an international level, not just at the Lebanese level. So that's one. This is on the human side. In addition, companies outside Lebanon, even when there's a diaspora element, when one of the co-founders is Lebanese or so on, and they're open to hiring in Lebanon, they tell you, I don't want to deal with the Lebanese mess. I don't know how to calculate social security now when you have 4 different or more exchange rates. We have a Norwegian company. Try explaining to them how 4 and 5 or 5 exchange rates can exist at the same time in Lebanon. So it's all very complicated. So in addition to the training, we had to, based on the demand from the companies, start offering remote HR, payroll services. We hire the people on their behalf. We help them navigate taxation and payment. We have an international banking entity. We created a UK entity because there's trust from a UK entity when you're invoiced by that as opposed to by a Lebanese entity. So we had to do all of those steps, which is operationally intensive. So there's no free lunch. But the outcome is that companies get very excited, and then when they hire, they're very happy, and they stick with that team and last a long way. So you have to go the extra mile and cover all the gaps. And if you do that, it becomes very attractive for companies outside to build teams in Lebanon. That's our approach.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful philosophy. So I guess my first question to follow up on that would be, of the skills, and it's a little bit off topic, but I think it's a very important point, of the skills that you try to add to, I think, the toolkit of the candidates that you've worked with, what would you say are the maybe top 2 soft skills that you think all candidates should be equipped with?
Yeah, it's funny you mention that. So every time we graduate a batch and they get hired, and we aim for 90%. So we need to get that 90% of our graduates get hired over the past X years. It's like this is our KPI. We then interview the companies and ask them, so how do you like the people you hired? Are you happy with them after X month? And we ask them, what do you look for the most? And they say attitude, attitude, attitude. So attitude is very important. So we actually filter for that. So 10% of our graduates of the applicants get accepted. So we filter for attitude. In terms of so you have, if you want inherent personality traits that we pick on, that we really look for. So it's not just your technical skills. You have to have that attitude, that can-do personality. I'm humble, I want to learn, I'm going to give 110% to my company outside, and so on. And then there's the actual practical soft skills, if you want. So CV cleaning, we do mock interviews. We train them on how to do proper interviewing, best practices, and so on. Teamwork, team communication, and all of that. So we literally have, even though we're known as a tech bootcamp, we have a soft skills bootcamp, and soft skills instructors complete their profiles. Again, it's a lot of work, but it pays off. This is our formula, our approach.
Beautiful, thank you. You had mentioned something that I thought was really, really interesting, because Hani, you had also mentioned this in our conversations, and that was related to certain specific considerations that were made for the actual corporate structuring of your businesses and your entities. Fadi, you mentioned that you have, in addition to the Lebanese entity, there's a UK entity. Hani, when you and I had spoken, you had mentioned a similar structure and division of labor for your corporate entities. Would you be able to walk us through some of that?
Sure. Thank you very much for hosting me on behalf of Fadi Dao, who isn't able to join today. So multi-lane does not necessarily fit the same exact structure as the typical outsourcing company. We're not, in fact, at all an outsourcing company. We are providing high-speed test solutions and products to the global market. Our workforce is expected to provide output and compete with the global market, again, in an infrastructure which is, borderline depleted. To be able to do this, we need to have a very versatile structural model in terms of the different entities within multi-lane. Of course, that involves, having a sort of distributor or sales outpost, which is here in California, but that is driven by a Lebanese company that is the main multi-lane, which is comprised of hardware engineers, software engineers, embedded engineers, operations, production. The combination of the domestic challenges, of course, compels us to need to have a bit of a more flexible relationship between the different entities within multi-lane, because again, we are, in order to be able to survive, we are expected to provide the same output and the same pace of innovation as companies that have 100x the research capital, 100x the human capital, and of course get to be able to offer very safe and reliable and sustainable living environments for their people.
So I'm going to follow that up with a question that you specifically asked me to ask you, and that is, why Lebanon? Why haven't you given up? Why still continue to be where you are within that market?
The real answer is a love for country. Really, the challenges that we face are not just the ones that are available at the surface. Think of the importing and exporting challenges going in and going out of Lebanon. when customers expect high throughput of product being delivered on a weekly basis. We have an exceptional workforce in terms of the talent, in terms of the work ethic, in terms of the the ability people have to contribute to this industry fresh out of the gate, out of university, but it requires significant investment. We are not structured in a way that we can immediately hire and recruit seasoned, well-experienced engineers. We hire for the majority directly out of university, and we invest multiple years into these people becoming productive. It takes around 18 months to 2 years on average for somebody to be able to sustain a project by themselves as an individual contributor. I will raise a bit of a controversial point, but I think I'm doing a service to our attendees by talking maybe a bit about the downsides, actually, about outsourcing in Lebanon. We invest very, very heavily into growing our team and eventually even more so to grow them into team leads, to be managers, to be mentors to a new generation of people. We find many a time that we are not only competing with the global market, we're not only competing with companies that are luring our people to be able to leave the country. We're competing domestically with outsourcing companies who are focused on maybe not necessarily growing the ecosystem at the scale that we are, but being able to identify and pick and choose the best and brightest. So if we have time, I would like to point a question to my colleagues here on the panel of, could you maybe elaborate a bit further on the community building side, on maybe the training side, and the investments in your own communities that are affecting not only the company in terms of a profit perspective, but are affecting the global, the national rather, talent in Lebanon as a whole?
Sam or Fadi?
I can take that. I can take that, definitely. So Hani, on our side, what we do a lot of soft skills training and lots of technical training as well. The soft skills for us is very important. We really pride ourselves into creating one of the best cultural fits when it comes to companies. We really like that, and for us, like for our clients, we always tell them, like, you know what we create is not only technical people that you just outsource the services to. We create your own culture in our premises. This is one. Second, really try to take the best out of both worlds. In Lebanon, you have this innate skills of people just thinking outside the box, and I hate this expression, but it's been overused. But anyway, I had to use it. At the same time, you have this culture of people being flexible and just really trying to go shortcut, and at the same time find a solution for whatever problem. On the other side, we also like the American style and the American culture where people follow processes, because Lebanese are not, of course, they're not perfect. They have that, but they don't follow processes, they don't follow rules, they don't follow regulations. That's the problem they have. So what we try to do is, 80% of the time, we have to follow the rules, so we have to follow the process. But then when you get to those 20% where there's an issue, instead of hitting a wall, just think outside the box again and try to find a solution, try to take a shortcut at that point. We train our people on that part, and we train them, of course, on communication, we train them on soft skills, on leadership, and all these. And big part of our spendings goes on trainings. And we try to make sure that whatever we have, we really try to have those super employees. And that's why our clients keep coming back to us saying we want more people in Lebanon.
Fadi, when you do your training with your candidates at SE Factory, is this a big part of the conversation? Something as simple and complex as, hey, we have rules, we have a set of guidelines, and there are certain operating metrics that you as a member of this larger team have to abide by. Do you find that that's something that is a challenge by nature, or do you find that that's something that is easily taught to the candidates?
I think it's necessary to impose a certain culture. So if you think about it, if you want, we want the people that we train, the people that graduate, to be ready for the international market. So the question becomes, what is the benchmark? What is the expected level of performance of a full stack developer at the international scale, working with, in our case, North American companies, European companies, or GCC companies? So these markets are demanding, right? The way we see ourselves, our bootcamp is basically a microcosm that represents a real work environment. It simulates the real work environment. So you have to work really hard. You have to deliver fast. You have to learn how to learn. You have to show up. You have to have the attitude. You have to obviously deliver and communicate with the manager and so on. So when a lot of people apply, we accept about 10, 15% of the applicants, right? We give them feedback. So when they apply, we tell them, these are our 4 criteria, not just coding and attitude, but actually English. So for example, in the case of English, we tell them, listen, you want to work for the international world, you need to speak English, okay? You need to be able to do that. If your English is not ready, we will be wasting your time and we cannot accept you into the bootcamp. But obviously, you know some basics, you can improve on your own, there's YouTube and so on. Just go and improve your English, come back in 4 months' time or in 6 months' time and apply again. And if you hit our scoring, we score everybody. If you hit that, you'll be good enough. And if you finish our program, 90% of you statistically will get a job. So we are basically, and we do an extensive outreach program in all the universities continuously. We have a team for that to be able to spread the good word, the gospel of coding is amazing, great jobs outside, but you have the potential to get there, but you have to X, Y, Z and develop that. So we're propagating that, if you want, the best practices of what does it take to be ready for the international world. And it's not just technical, like I said, it's also those soft skills. So over time, I mean, we've been doing this for 6, 7 years. We have an alumni in the hundreds. We've got exposure to thousands of students. This kind of knowledge propagates, and we find the students come in a bit more ready because of the work we've put in at the outreach. I don't know if this answers the question, but I think that we bring in, this is the expectation of the outside world, because many times students in Lebanon don't know what is the expectation of the outside world, and they have a very different and very much weaker set of expectations for what the outside world wants. So we do that.
I think, Hani, do you have a question for Fadi?
I did actually. Maybe this is for Fadi and for Samer as well. Gentlemen, would you know by any chance what percentage of your new hires are fresh graduates out of university?
In our case, the vast majority. Again, we track everything from when they start to what salaries they're getting from which companies and so on. The vast majority are in their early 20s, and then we have a bit in the mid 20s. They've worked a bit, but in an IT or not. I mean, non-web development IT or an older form of coding, and then they come back to refresh their knowledge on the latest web technologies. But in our case, the vast majority are fresh graduates or 23, that sort of thing.
Okay, so like probably 40, 50% either fresh grads or kind of like 2 or 3 years of experience. But then we put them into boot camps, we train them, get them up to speed, and then they take it from there. So we even have it in boot camps ourselves. So we have like, we work with major universities in Lebanon, where we give our own courses there. So we give them a course that is more related to what we do, get them trained. Well, Fadi, we're taking out your job here, but just for one course.
It's okay. So we need many of those programs. We need all the variations of the boot camps. There's not one way of doing this to build an entire ecosystem. So on the contrary.
And then we get them into boot camps, we get them just really into that, and then we hire probably 20, 30% of them.
And do most of those individuals, I mean, you're basically located and headquartered in Lebanon, right? I mean, I know one of the things, Hani, you had kind of brought this up a little bit when you were speaking earlier is, you want to combat the brain drain, which is one thing that, we see Lebanon clearly suffering from. But you also need to figure out a way to navigate how to make solid hires within Lebanon that are not just being pilfered out by international employers. So, is there some tension there? How would you go about, I guess, addressing both of those points?
This is a battle we fight every single day. It is, we are asking our people to, compete and produce at a global level while they are not being allowed the same securities of life and quality of life at the global level, right? The challenge that we face from external factors in terms of people who have like applied to master's programs or have applied to companies, globally or in Europe and the USA is equally an obstacle to us as it is in terms of the domestic recruitment of people that we try to retain that eventually go up to other companies. A lot of times they go to companies that are outsourcing companies. When a senior resource in our company, makes the decision to leave, it's all the best to them. They do what's in their best interests, but it leaves a whole generation of younger contributors, of fresh graduates, without a mentor, without a guide, and without somebody who can oversee and help make them more productive. So this is an example of a challenge which is affecting us both by domestic and external factors.
Yeah, definitely. I can see how that's a little bit unwieldy to find your way through. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, just to cut off for a second. In terms of brain drain, I mean, there's things you cannot control and there's things you can control. So you work on the strength that you have. So a lot of the youth that we have, obviously, many people are very much fed up with Lebanon and so on, and they might get offers from outside. What you can do is you give them that training, which will give them access, and we give them access to companies and so on. And once you do that and start getting jobs, then they have more than one option. Some of them choose to stay and some of them choose to leave. In our case, most of them actually stay. So the general answer is that if you create multiple options for them, one of them being in Lebanon, you get good work that respects you, that pays you well from the outside world, where you could potentially travel, and so on and so forth. Many choose to stay. And then it just becomes, maybe later on as a senior, they might leave, they might come back. You cannot control this. And everyone has their personal goals in life. But what you do is you do your part. You give them good options from Lebanon. You present it to them, and then they, as an adult, make a decision with respect to their lives. And we find that most of our graduates are still in Lebanon. So it's still, despite all the issues, we still have people in Lebanon who stay the majority. So it's not a big deal. I mean, it is a big deal. I'm sorry, it is a major deal. But in our case, many of them choose to stay. But the problems in Lebanon are very real. We should not kid ourselves.
Great, thank you. So I guess my final question before we open it up to, hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. Sorry, for some reason it was telling me I was on mute. So my final question for everybody on the panel basically is, if I am an outside global employer and I'm looking at Lebanon to either hire individual candidates or to hire companies and teams as a whole in an outsourced fashion, what advice would you give me? What would I need to know on the outset in order to do this successfully? And what do you think I should be aware of?
I can start, whatever. Yeah.
I'm
Go
sorry?
ahead, Sam.
Well, I'll start that. So few things, Natasha. I think first thing they need to understand is that outsourcing to Lebanon is not just equal to offshoring. So it's not like offshoring to India or offshoring to West Europe or what have you. Lebanon is a bit different in that perspective. Lebanon first is, it's more of a niche of people, and you want to really understand it's more of really like going after soft skills, going after this type of personalities, and not really just like you want to just look at those technical skills and just go and I need someone for that project that has this type of skills. It's a small, at the end of the day, small market. So if you're really looking for this rare kind of skills, we will not find them here. But it's more of really finding the right soft skills and then train them on technical skills. That is one. Second, Lebanon is not as cheap as India from that perspective. But what you do is you get them on the longer term. If you want someone on the long term, Lebanese are usually loyal, they will stick with you. And if they get trained, you can gain that on a very longer term. We have people that have been with us for 15 years, for instance, now. So on that perspective, you just hire a big team, and then you have them sticking with you. You train them, technical, soft skills, all that, and they can stick with you longer.
Thank you, Samar Fadi.
So we tell the companies, you can think of us, as, in our case, as your partner on the ground, and we can have this discussion with you. So the first thing we tell them, let's say you want to hire a tech talent. Is it junior tech talent or senior tech talent? The brain drain is not the same. Finding senior talent in Lebanon is exceedingly hard. It's hard globally in terms of at the technical at the technology, but I'm guessing for also other matters because such people can find jobs outside. Junior talent, we produce that every 4 months. So very solid junior tech talent, we got that. So we tell the company, you're a medium-sized company, or you're funded startups, or you're a larger company? Do you have senior tech person or team lead where you are in London or in Dubai that is going to oversee this team in Lebanon? They say yes. We're like, great, we can help you when it comes to web talent and mobile app development. If it's a very specialized coding skill, like Samer mentioned, we teach our students how to learn, but if it's super mega specialized, it might not be a right fit. So that's also a valid point. So we have this discussion about the senior versus junior. And then we tell them, okay, how many do you want to hire? What general technologies and so on. So we work with them on that. And then we tell them, listen, do you have a setup in Lebanon, a legal setup? If you don't have that, we can help you with that. We have our own legal setup. This is how it works, and so on and so forth. You have concerns over internet or electricity and so on. We recommend to open an office in certain places, for example, at the Beirut Digital District or at other places, and we get pricing from them and we get discounts and so on. We want to provide them with private health insurance. We can help you with that. And we roll the red carpet, but we're also very transparent to them and tell them when it doesn't make sense. We tell them, listen, maybe not now, maybe later. So multiple times we have companies, they want to hire a CTO. Tell them, guys, you probably need a CTO in your HQ with the other co-founders. So it wouldn't make a lot of sense to hire them in Lebanon. And finding them is not that easy. We can help you and search, but we cannot systematically promise that we will find that person. Or maybe you can find someone and bring them to Lebanon or vice versa. So we work with them on this. We act very transparent and tell them what can be done and what cannot be done. And when there are things that can be done, we try to be the turnkey partner. Whatever you need, we probably can help you with that. If you show them that attitude and if you create that quality of service, it works out.
Beautiful, thank you. Hani?
So I would speak from the employee perspective. In terms of, tools to succeed, in terms of generating and fostering a workforce in Lebanon, I would go twofold at the micro level. Empower your employees with equity. Of course, competitive wages, perks, these are, very generic things. But one thing I would talk about is, providing a path for your employees to have equity and to have shares within the company. This is something that's very competitive and unique in Lebanon. Effective 2 months ago, Multilane created stock options for the majority of our team in Lebanon. And this allows them to not only feel that, they're being compensated for what they do, but that they feel that they're a partner in the overall goal. That's at the micro level. And I will also speak more importantly on the macro level, empower your employees with purpose. Multilane is driven at its core by a mission statement of corporate social responsibility. We offer training programs for everything from fresh grads and post grads all the way to middle and high school students. We donate the tuitions of over 40 to 50 students on an annual basis. We we facilitate, let's say, charity activities. We facilitate, give back to the community activities, but it's really driven by an open feedback loop of CSR initiatives which strengthen Lebanon's already strong STEM foundations to contribute to a robust high-tech economy, which eventually comes back for our organization to improve the output of our workforce. In other words, we have a vision, we have a purpose, which is beyond just the profit structure, and we compel our people to adopt that purpose as their own. And that does not just involve perks at the micro level of, okay, you have options, you have liquidity, you have stock. It involves being able to wake up in the morning and say, what I'm doing is not only helping me, it's helping my entire country, because we are fostering the entire ecosystem from the pre-grads, from the juniors that don't even have degrees yet, all the way to the folks who are leading teams of their own.
Great, thank you so much for that. Gentlemen, thank you for sharing all of your thoughts. I think right now what we're going to do is just open it up for a few audience questions. And I received a few here. The first one that I have actually is for you, Hani. And it is there an opportunity for North American companies to establish an offshore office inside Lebanon that will provide not only positions, but also company culture? I think, Hani, you could probably start with this one, and then Samer and Fadi, you can chime in as well.
I see a significant opportunity to do so. In fact, this is one of the key pillars of our mission in our incubator, parent company for Multiland, which is Hamad Technology Park, HTP. We have essentially set a mission to be able to entice foreign companies to be able to open their own outposts in Lebanon. This is a great way to bootstrap sustainability and to put Lebanon on the map as far as a global player in high tech.
Samer, your thoughts?
Well, a few things, basically. One is on the outsourcing side, it's pretty easy for us to basically give a team. Well, first, quality is very important for us, but also from when it comes to costs for any American companies. So from that perspective, we really answer both things. I think with what's going on now in the recession in the US, more people are looking into offshoring. And since we provide both engineering and software development things, and software is all over the globe and can be done remotely very easily. So I think that answers a lot of what's going on now in the US with the recession and all that. So I think one of the pains right now in the US is they want to look into offshoring, but they want to look into, at the same time, to quality. And you provide both. Now, in our case, it can be like in the same time zone. So it can be in near shore. But even our teams in the US and in Lebanon are used to working US time zones. So we have people in Lebanon with several shifts. So we have people either working in the same time zone in the US and they're working for them, they're working in very late hours. Others that basically provide, let's say, support like in every time zone. So we have that as well. And when it comes to, well, Lebanese are very good at communication skills. We give them the proper training to communicate the way that the Americans want them to communicate. So make sure that they say this, like they talk, the American talks and all that. So it comes with a lot of trainings, a lot of, well, build the right culture and all that, being task oriented and all this. And once they see that they have the same type of people that they used to work with, the same type of culture, plus what we call the innate skills of Lebanese, that gives them a very nice edge on for against others.
Fadi, what do you think is the key to establishing and fostering a healthy business culture within Lebanon?
I mean, I definitely think that companies can set up teams in Lebanon. This is what we do, and it works well. You have to have a way to find the right talent for you. So first, you have to identify if that talent is available. Like I said, sometimes you have to be transparent and honest and say this talent specifically maybe not present. But then you'd be surprised at the type you could find. So just to give a quick example, we have a Canadian company that has hired a telesales team in Lebanon through us. It's not even software, it's an agricultural company in Montreal. And they hired in Lebanon because they want people who speak French, and they work at nights on Canadian times, and they're doing calls from Lebanon, and with 4G and with the fiber optic connectivity, and it's working very well. And they love the attitude and they love the proactivity of the talent in Lebanon and the mindset. Let's not forget that this is one of our assets versus offshoring into India culture, and being closer to European and to American culture allows people here to work with companies in Norway, in our case, and Canada and others. So you can do that. Just talk to people like Samer, like Tuhani, or myself, or others. Check what kind of team can you build realistically in Lebanon. And not only will you, if generally speaking, you can find that talent, then have a way to find the talented ones, the good ones from the general pool. You have to overcome some obstacles like in any emerging market. In our case, it's infrastructure. And if you do all of this, you can benefit immensely as a company. A lot of huge value creation and quality, but also affordability. And that in an environment of persistent, relatively long-term inflation, which is what most people predict. The key word now is affordability, and to be able to build quality teams, but also reduce your overall costs. So all of these elements put together means that Lebanon has certain strong points it can lean on. It's just about being able to overcome the obstacles that get in the way, but it's perfectly doable.
Great, thank you. So the next question that we have a few questions that kind of revolve around the same theme from the audience, and that really relates again back to this idea of the brain drain. Some of the questions that we're seeing here from the audience are variations on the same theme. Effectively, how do you navigate the problem of the brain drain? How do you recommend that we go about trying to stop the problem of the brain drain? What holes can we fill either with business opportunities or on a larger scale, whether that's political, social, etc.? What holes can we fill to kind of counteract this problem together as a nation? And I think maybe, Hani, why don't we start with you on that one?
Sure. So as I mentioned before, it is an ongoing challenge. It's, I don't use the term war, but it's an ongoing odyssey with ups and downs. And the folks that succeed most in our environment are those that believe in the greater mission, which involves a certain amount of sacrifice. Again, as a private entity, there's only so much that you can do to compensate for the inadequacies of the state. It's not our core function. So that overcompensation, for one, it means that you have to put your focus not only on core business, but on ensuring your employees have a safe path to work, ensuring complete energy independence. Just speaking for ourselves, we are 100% solar right now, or at least we're going to be imminently. We're completely independent of the grid. We have made arrangements to route dedicated fiber from multiple sources to our facility in the event of basic internet completely deteriorating. Again, it's not without asking our people to feel okay with that status quo, because of course, just like my colleagues here that on the outsourcing side, what makes us work is a very, very competitive cost structure in terms of labor force in the lens of the global market. So people need to be bought in, and it's not always the case. What we do is we're in a position where we can offer equity, we can offer stock ownership to our people. We are in a position where some of the most we get to be able to tell people, look, this product, this box that you're building, it's going straight to Google, it's going straight to Meta, it's going straight to AWS, to Cisco, to Nokia. These are all customers that we deal with on a weekly basis. These are all the revenue drivers for our company. So building a channel of passion of, hey, everything that you're touching, everything you're putting your fingerprints on is going to enable the global evolution of cloud, is a story that resonates with some, and it doesn't necessarily resonate with all. And we need to, be able to keep as many people motivated and engaged with all of these different variables.
Thank you. Fadi?
I think all of us here, whether it's J4L, Novelis, Multilane, ourselves, and many others, we're all trying to promote brand Lebanon, to counteract the negative by the positive, that, you have good companies doing good work, you can work with them, or you can hire their talent in our case, and so on and so forth. So we should, I think, and definitely there's a movement towards being able to collaborate more together to promote that you have options in Lebanon, and you can build, you can do good business in Lebanon in a way that is good for your business, that creates value and so on. And if you do that, this naturally implies that you are creating good jobs in Lebanon, honorable jobs where people are well paid and are respected and where they can grow and learn. If you do that, in the perception of the talent of Lebanon, they now have options. So they could leave, but they could also stay in Lebanon because they can find good jobs and get well paid, and they can then stay close to their families and help out and so on and so forth. So not everybody wants to leave all the time. So you counteract the externally focused tension with the helping them stay by bringing in good stuff here. I think we're all doing our parts, and there are things we cannot control, like the government, the politics, all of that. We cannot control that. So you work on the things you can control, you do your part really well, but you collaborate with everybody else. And this is why I always say we need, multiple boot camps. We need different types of organizations and companies at different stages of the value chain, to be able to promote this positive brand Lebanon that can at least a little bit counteract the negative news that comes out all the time.
Thank you. Samer, do you have any final thoughts on this?
Well, I would say, just to add to what Fadi and Hadi were saying, most important, I think, is culture. Just get that culture, empower your people, give them what they need. Just being flat, like make them part of the dream that you're creating. At the same time, make sure that your clients and on the other part, they're seeing the same thing. They're seeing this value that you're creating. Once you do that, I think you'll go like miles from here. At the end of the day, I'll give you an example. We started a couple of years back. We were only 200 people in Lebanon. We grew in the last 3 years to 500 just because our clients ended that. because they saw the value and they said, you know what, I want more of this. And that's an experience that we've lived. So I think if we really do that, we go far.
Great. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for your time and for your thoughts and for honestly everything that it is that you're doing in business and for the community. I also actually want to take the opportunity to thank Jobs for Lebanon and the wonderful team of volunteers who have worked so tirelessly to put this event on today and to make today's conversations a reality. So thank you to everybody. And I would also like to just end with sort of a gentle plea or request to any members of the audience. If you've liked what you've heard today, both in this panel and throughout the day in general, if you would be open to making a contribution, that would be greatly appreciated. Donations can be made via Jobs for Lebanon's website. If that is not a possibility, we completely understand. We also highly encourage members of the audience to participate by sending an email, seeing how you might be able to volunteer. And then also, if you have any questions, if there's anything we could ever do for you, don't hesitate to reach out. That's what we're here for. So thank you all for your time, and I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, JFL. Thank you, Patty and Em.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having us.
Thank you to all for this really informative discussion on the ways to mitigate the challenges in outsourcing to Lebanon and upskilling the Lebanese workforce, a really relevant topic in today's environment. And with that, the Outsource to Lebanon virtual conference has ended. Thank you to all of the speakers, the service providers, volunteers, and attendees for spending the day with us. I would also like to extend a special thank you to our sponsor, SEAL, the Social and Economic Action for Lebanon, for making this event, as well as our entire outsourcing initiative possible. We hope you all had a pleasant experience and that you learned something about outsourcing to Lebanon. And more importantly, I hope that this is the start of a larger discussion on how we can help boost our economy, local businesses, and the Lebanese talent by transforming this country into an outsourcing hub. Should you be interested in partnering with Jobs for Lebanon as a service provider or employer, you can submit an application in the link provided in the chat below, or reach out to us at outsourcing@jobsforlebanon.com. You can also reach us there with any feedback that you have about the event today. In the meantime, you can continue to engage with service providers in the Zohr platform for the next 30 minutes, and of course, enjoy some great tracks by Ola Fandi during this time. Thank you again for your time, and we hope to see you all again very soon.